Welcome to the Tuesday stream. I hope everyone's having an awesome Tuesday morning. Ooh. Hey, Fifth Dimension, how's it going? Ooh, alright. Now, folks, I definitely did not oversleep today. That is something that did not happen. London is damp and cool. Nice. It's about that time, or is it always like that? Omen is underwater. Oh, we have real autumn now. I see. Wow. Yeah, I'm seeing that here. Hey, Carpet Packs, how's it going? Happy Tuesday. Wow, I got hit with a massive typhoon. The most beautiful country I've ever seen devastated. Yikes. Yikes. We will go over that for sure. I found an article here, Thandera. There's a whole pile of ads when I picked up your stream. Stops us getting on for 1 minute or so. I believe that's like towards the beginning. I make sure that I do it right as the stream starts, like 2 minutes before. So I don't know if it's a delay. If it's a delay in the thing, so that we get pre-rolls off. It should be about a minute 30. It should be about a minute 30, and then it goes into the stream. It should, at least, how it's set up. Not bad, thanks for the shout out, of course. My friend Muhammad in Oman sent me a video and pics on Instagram. Yikes. Speaking of which, Instagram, Facebook, or I should say Facebook and all the apps that it owns was down for several hours from what I understand. I mean the typhoon, I think the typhoon or cyclone Shaheen towards the Middle East. At least 13 people reported to have been killed in Oman and Iran due to the storm. It even hit Iran, parts of Iran, I guess. Hey Elio, how's it going? Big dangly things. Morning, morning. I saw a video that it was growing in the ocean for 7 days. Yeah. As climate change progresses, we will see that more and more of these storms will be like this. The monsoon rains usually fall between the months of June to October in most parts of Southeast Asia. Gotcha. Alright, folks, we got plenty of... Well, we got some articles to go through, so let's see if we can get through some of these headlines. I think I need this meme on the soundboard. a 3.5 trillion plunge into socialism. Okay. Democrats continued their internal fight of how much of President Joe Biden's 3.5 trillion spending proposal they can get away with passing. But for those who believe in fiscal and personal responsibility, the battle's already lost. I always love when they like really try to hammer on that, because like unironically they don't actually care. They don't actually care about personal responsibility, as we've seen time and time again. Hey, Madame Defarge. Whether the whole banana is adopted or a somewhat smaller slice, it is all but certain America will see the largest expansion of government since Lyndon Johnson's Great Society initiative in the 60s. It became inevitable once Democratic Senator Joe Manchin of West Virginia, who had been a holdout for spending sanity, agreed to accept $1.5 trillion in new giveaways. New giveaways, folks. New giveaways. And that's how the ceiling will be decided based on how much sugar Democrats sprinkle on Manchin's home state. Imagine thinking like... Morning. Imagine thinking that maternity leave is a giveaway. Is just like some giveaway. Imagine thinking that 2 years of college is a giveaway. Imagine. And they use these terms on purpose, right? Because it's not really a giveaway. You pay taxes. You work. Okay? You work and you pay taxes. That's what this is. That's where this is coming from. Biden doesn't pass laws, the Congress does. True. Yikes, Sandera. Mind you, 3.5 trillion is already the compromise. None of these are giveaways. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise, okay? If you work 40 hours a week and you pay taxes, these are not giveaways. The betting line is 2 trillion to 2.5 trillion for the final package if Democrats can get their hard-line liberal caucus to recognize what victory looks like. This will not be a good week for those who believe that the individual should be the most powerful force in the American life. Yikes. Can you already feel the language and the vibe that's coming off of this article? Can you already feel the bias, the way this article is written? Can you feel that? So this will not be a good week for those who believe the individual should be the most powerful force in American life. Biden's package is designed to broaden dependency on government to cover a wide swath of the middle class. Oh yeah, hey folks, nothing says dependency on the government when the government decides to give you 2 years of college and maternity leave. Nothing says dependency on the government when you get the bare minimum. Yeah, you mean the family struggling to eat? True. Right then, Dara, we're supposed to believe that the bare minimum is a handout we don't deserve. Right, like that's already a misnomer. It's not a handout. It's not a handout at all. It's a reorganization of our priorities. Like those who are here those who are here that are American, that pay taxes, that work 40 hours a week, that work at all, who pay taxes no matter what. I mean, we should get something back for it, right? That is the whole point. That is the whole entirety for taxes. Manchin is a Dem senator in a red state. It may take quite a bit of sweetening to make him vote for the Dem, to make him vote the Dem bill in. We'll see. When is the economic collapse? Well, if these people continue to be in power, maybe sooner than later. So, just to be clear, there's nothing wrong with thinking about the individual, right? There's nothing wrong with thinking about individual as a if that's what you believe in. However, government isn't designed to think in an individualist way. Government is designed to do what's best for the country, right? That's what it's designed to do. So therefore, it is very weird. It's a very weird concept to have as someone who works in government, to say like, oh yeah, we just we don't need to care about the country as a whole. It just seems very weird. And furthermore, this is not true. Okay, so just to be clear, just because you get a couple of extensions on somewhat social programs does not mean you will be dependent on the government. Free community college, free elder care, free preschool, government-funded family and medical leave, expanded Medicare, all great stuff, right? True, actually true. And it's not free. That is a misnomer as well. It's not free. It's coming from the taxes, which is, I mean, listen, I work full time. Okay? I pay taxes. I want something for that. Someone said no other country has these pointless debt ceiling arguments. Is that true? I don't know. But it's kind of a political football, right? It's kind of a meme at this point. But somebody has to pay for it. Biden and the Democrats are pretending the tab will be picked up by making wealthy and corporations pay their fair share. True. Ignoring the steep price everyone will pay when such a heavy burden on investors and job creators stall the economy. Huh. Interesting. You know, this pandemic really kind of blew the lid. I can't believe that this is still passing for, this is still passing for political commentary. Okay, so let me be clear. Let me rewind the clock for a second. This is an opinion piece, okay? This is an opinion piece. I just brought it up because I find it, I find it to be quite the meme, okay? So it's impressive to me that this still passes as political commentary in 2021 after seeing the pandemic kind of blow the lid off of all of these things. I mean, no, the job creators, really. What kind of jobs? How much do those jobs pay? You know what stalls the economy? You know what really stalls the economy? Really bad wages. You know what stalls the economy? Really bad wages. That depresses the ability for people to buy stuff. You know what really stalls an economy? The continuation, the monopolization, the monopolizing tendencies of these really big companies. That's a stall. That's what stalls the economy, folks. I don't think it's. I think that's a false dichotomy, fifth dimension. I don't think it's like that necessarily. It's not split like just strictly down the middle like that. A kinetic pause. There's no debt limit prior to 1917 in the US and really only came to prominence in the 70s with Geffart's rule. Gotcha. When entitlements, Medicare... Yeah, it's not entitlements, okay? Yeah, that's also a weird way of putting it. Because it's not like... It evokes a weird, like... feeling behind entitlement. It's not an entitlement, it's something you've paid for. Imagine like working your entire life and then your social security check is called an entitlement. No. Democrats are putting the finishing touches on the transformation of America into a European-style socialist welfare state. Okay. Now these are... The memes are getting gold. The memes are getting gold right here, folks. So which is it? Either Europe is a socialist welfare state, or either Europe is filled with socialist welfare states, or they are capitalist, kind of like social democracies. Which one is it? Because these folks can't really decide. And to be clear, the Europe is not a socialist welfare state, okay? And there's no country in Europe that is a socialist welfare state. Period. Full stop. This is just a flat out lie. And furthermore, a milquetoast approach where we get like a basic expansion of social safety nets, a basic expansion of social safety nets is not the transformation of America, okay? So this is hyperbolic and it's just false. It will eventually have to be paid for by everyone with European-style taxes. I mean, listen, if we pay a little bit more in taxes, and we get all of this in return, we get healthcare, education, we have public funding for public housing, we have childcare, maternity leave, and we have all of these like very robust, very well-funded social programs, then yeah, of course I would like that. Wait, ask anybody in Europe about how they feel about this socialist welfare state. This article is trash. It's made by a libertarian who has no concept of how economics works. I do believe in the past there has been politicians calling Social Security an entitlement. I don't remember who it was. I think it was back in the late 90s. I think it was birthed from Reagan's welfare queens. Ah, maybe. There he is. Howdy. Oh, Kalo, I owe you a dab. Hold on, folks. Give me 1 second. I owe you a dab. The American capitalist definition of world government? Yeah, they don't really have a good definition of it. I appreciate that, kind sir. There should be a base of genuine human rights, and the cost that should be minimum income available to the people at the bottom of the pile. Well, the thing is, like, fifth dimension, if I understand you correctly, do you mean like there should be like a baseline of like, I don't know, just like human needs? Yeah, I agree. I mean, like, as you guys have heard me time and time again, I do believe in things like food, housing, education, and healthcare should be pretty much like guaranteed. It should just be a thing. There's no reason why anybody in this country shouldn't have these things, okay? As a baseline. I haven't seen a dab in months. We've got dabs. We've got dabs. I mean, like, food, housing, education, and healthcare should be just a thing. It should just be. I don't understand. We have so much resources, so much money. There's no reason why anybody should, in this country, shouldn't have any of these things. I don't believe in housing and healthcare exist. They're an illusion. In this country, it's basically that. Unless you have a lot of money, then it's not so much an illusion. What's with this religion called reality that thinks that these things exist? Home, food, education, clothing, clean water, heating, cooling. Yep, that's all part of housing though, yeah. Yep. I agree. If food is an illusion, why does it make my butt big? That's funny. Anyways, so the TLDR, the idea that this would be such a bad thing, that getting an expansion of the social safety net is a bad thing, is unbelievable to me. Is unbelievable to me. Ask anybody in Europe if they think that they live in some type of socialist welfare state. Lower and middle class taxpayers in the European Union pay an average of marginal tax rate of 49% on all wages above $37,000 a year, an average value-added tax of 20% on their purchases. I'm gonna press X to doubt, because I don't trust anything that a libertarian has to say when it comes to economics. And trust me, I'm economically illiterate, okay? I'm not that good with economics. They might be right. Let's see. Uh-oh. Oh, but there's a difference between marginal and personal income tax rates. Oh, good lord. This is why I hate, like, the convoluted... The top income tax rate is applied to a share of income that falls in the highest tax bracket. If a country has 5 tax brackets with a top income tax rate of 50% at a threshold of 1 million... Wait! Hold on. Hold on, this might be... Wait, this is misleading. If you make over $1 million, you would be taxed at 50%. Like, you would need to be making over €1 million to be taxed at even that bracket. Wait. Workers recognize the impacts of marginal tax rates and thresholds when deciding whether to work an additional hour or whether to take a new job paying higher salary. High marginal tax rates can make additional work more expensive and lead to individuals deciding to stay in less productive positions or choosing not to work. When tax rates increase the cost of labor, this has effects of decreasing hours worked with decreasing amounts of production in the economy. Top individual income tax rates in Europe. Estonia 21, Latvia 21, 21.4, Czech Republic 31 has the lowest top income tax rates of all European countries covered. The countries with the highest top income tax rates are Slovenia 61% and Portugal 61.1, Portugal 61.0, Belgium 60.2%. The threshold at which top income tax rate applies also plays an important role. Both the top tax rate and threshold can determine the amount of tax revenue raised by the top bracket. For instance, if a country has a top income tax rate of 50% on income over 1 million, only a small number of high-earning taxpayers will pay that rate, and it may not generate significant tax revenue. In contrast, a top income tax rate of only 20% on all income of 10,000 would apply to most taxpayers, implying a broad income tax base and higher tax revenue from the top bracket. I see. So from what I understand, this libertarian is a bit misleading. Housing, healthcare, infrastructure? How about never? And is that like the U.S. tax max that only applies to the amount of over 1 million? No, this is the European socialist utopia. That doesn't sound like a problem at all. Sounds like they can make more positions and hire more people and then let people work less. True. Anyone who says the high tax margin are good for the economy needs to look at some statistics and maybe take Econ 101. You may need to tell people what marginal tax rate means. It's not 50% of all their income, it's after 1 million. People think it's punishing the rich for making more money, but that's not the case. Right. Hey, Spread It Forward, how's it going? So this is very yeah, they keep forgetting this one giant thing. People need to eat. I know. Imagine that. So just to be clear, as Dr. Dragon Rider just clarified, a marginal tax rate means not 50% of your income, it means after 1 million. Okay? So again, this is very misleading. A nonpartisan joint committee on taxation estimates that in 2021, oh man, I bet if we look that one up, that's going to be filled with libertarian roots. Estimates in 2021, the effective tax rate for Americans earning between $50,000 and $75,000 will be 0. That will have to change to cover the price tag for Biden's free goodies. Free goodies, folks. With everyone whining about places going down because no one will work, I'm going to tear someone a new asshole when they start the whole Mexicans are taking our jobs trope. Is that still a thing? Jesus Christ. Is that still a thing? I mean, like, seriously. If anything, this pandemic kind of blew the lid on that, right? Okay? People just aren't going back to work because, hey, you pay like shit, you treat your workers like shit, and your customers are assholes. Nobody wants to work for you for dog shit wages. That's what it is. I need to take an economics class. True. Same. Yeah, so I don't know like how you can rationalize that in this day and age, but I guess some people might. I guess some people might comment girl. Some people might. I just find it weird. Like, this pandemic, if anything, has kind of blown the lid on that. But hey, it doesn't have to make sense, right? Maybe you're right. Yeah, people aren't going to work because of Mexico. Solved. Excellent. Flawless logic. Yeah, they just have no excuses, right? That's what I would be thinking. Spread it forward. The difference between this package and previous trillions spent in the name of COVID relief is that this spending will never go away. Once a government entitlement is set in place and constituency built for its dollars, it's nearly impossible to end. Hey guys, here's the they gave away the plot right here. They gave away the plot right here. They made us take the jab. Oh god, no. But unironically, I have seen that one. Spread it forward. Look, they gave away the plot right here. Once a government entitlement is set in place and a constituency built for its dollars, it is nearly impossible to end. Hmm. Fascinating. So what you're saying is we should absolutely be pushing for a universal healthcare system. We should absolutely be pushing for some type of education system, whether it be college, um, whether it be trade schools and things like that, to make sure that people have access to this thing without having to pay. And because they know that if this happens, it will be nearly impossible to end because it is incredibly popular. Talk about wanting to stall the economy. Can you imagine how much economic stimulus it would be if people had access to healthcare? Can you imagine how how stimulating to the economy it would be if you have open college, open trade schools? Can you imagine? I remember thinking, wow, everyone's going to love Bernie's policies. This proves his points when the pandemic first hit. Yeah, I mean, like, true. Which it did, but people, it just went right over their heads. Speaking of which, this lazy socialist that's going to get ready for work. What? What? I thought when communists or when socialists, I thought socialists just didn't work. Huh. Weird. Weird. Thank you for stopping by. I appreciate that. Does this society and or government, not a person, wants to fix life or not? Well, yeah, it depends. Open borders. It's very sad that we couldn't get Medicare for all during the pandemic and we'll never get it. I don't know about never, Dr. Dragon Rider. I don't know about never. I think its time will come. But, it's certainly frustrating that, you know, one would think with all the benefits that a universal healthcare system can bring, one would think that logically this, out of all the times, this would be like one of those prime for like, hey, you know what? Healthcare is kind of important. We kind of need it to live. Huh. Maybe it should be like a thing that everybody has? Huh. Just a thought. Just a friendly thought from a, just a thought. But yeah, these libertarians types, especially those who think that they're like economic masters. They know the economic. They know the ways of the free market, and yet are so off base when it comes to these things. And they tell you it's kind of selfish, right? Once a government entitlement, which is a weird way of framing it, is set in place and a constituency built for its dollars, it's nearly impossible to end. They know it. They don't want people to have these things. That's what it is. That's right, I'm sorry. You're right, Kal. I apologize. Maybe I should retract that. The invisible hand, it's hard to see, so therefore I shouldn't really criticize it too much. I'm sorry, Kal. You're right. It really bugs me how you can run a tepid campaign promising the status quo that barely ekes out a win against a historically unpopular partisan party, and then blame your inaction once elected on thin margins. True. True, I stray. True. I've said this before on stream like 2,535 million times. But in particular with the senatorial campaigns that were done in Georgia, the upset victory, because it was an upset victory, okay? The race on Georgia wasn't guaranteed. It was very uphill, right? Maybe they could have won one seat, but the chances of them winning both were very slim. But the platform, the campaign platform, or the campaign promises, motivated people, because that's what they wanted, motivated people to deliver the Senate for the Democratic Party. They knew that if they got these seats, or at least they were believed that if they got these 2 seats, they would have the slim majority to be able to try to do as much of that agenda as possible, right? That was the whole point of them doing this monumental effort. That's the whole point why people got out there to vote in Georgia. Because they felt like, finally, well, this might be the one shot. This might be the one Hail Mary to try to do something here. They believed that. They were told that. Remember, they were told that by the Democratic leadership, the folks on the ground who did fantastic work on the ground for Georgia. I mean, now what? Now you're gonna tell these people to come out there and vote for you again? Okay. Hold on, folks. Did I miss a sub? Oh my goodness. So, Sir Yogi-wan, thank you so much for the tier 1 gifted sub to Can't Find a Name Like. I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, it's really bold for these absurdly wealthy folks to even mention the words entitlement. True. Politics is just the way we do business. True. I'm still waiting on that other 600. Same. Same. Run the marginal race and do nothing. Profit. Repeat. Then try to blame the Republican Party, which, okay, fine, but like, dude, that's only gonna work once. Okay? That only worked once. That presidential election, that was a one-time deal, okay? That wasn't because Joe Biden was some kind of massively popular figure, okay? He didn't win. He didn't win because he was some massively popular figure. He won because Trump was grossly incompetent, among other things. Okay? Greg Abbott owes me 6,000. So, yeah. Had that only worked once, okay? And how are you going to talk to the constituency, or how are you going to talk or convince the American people to get out there and vote for you again when it may not even be Trump running? It could be. It seems like he's setting the stage to run. There's a good chance that he might, but what if he doesn't? Then what? Then what? What are you gonna do? You gotta have a platform, and you gotta have something behind it. Okay, you gotta show the receipts. You gotta deliver for the American people. But they're not really doing that, are they? As of yet, who knows? Who knows? Maybe by the end of this month they'll figure out how to get some good legislation on the board. But I wouldn't hold my breath. Yeah, the invisible hand is just hard to see. True. Democrats have an opportunity to make such a transformational change in America because they have... Wait, such a transformational change. Hey folks, remember when trying to fund infrastructure, when trying to fund education, when trying to fund elderly care, when trying to fund maternity leave. Remember when that was a transformational change? Jesus Christ. I mean, really? Really? Obama said Medicare for all, and then he cried at only getting Obamacare a joy. True. Remember your thesaurus, kids. True. Yeah, well, the reason why Obamacare was such an abysmal... the reason why, Obamacare was an abysmal, plan was because, well, it was written by the insurance companies. Thank you for the follow, Boneang, Buning, Sheiks. Thanks, Cato Institute. Democrats have an opportunity to make such a transformational change in America because they have a 3-vote majority in the House. Wait, no, that's not true. A 3-vote majority? No, they have like 12. That's not true. Oh my god, the dishonesty in this article. In the House, well, it's an opinion piece, okay? I did disclose that at the beginning. It is an opinion piece. It's just a great way to look at the mindset of these folks. And a control of the 50-50 Senate by virtue of the vice president tiebreaker, but such narrow margins don't constitute a mandate. Oh, okay. Wait. Oh, what? What? Americans in 2020 chose Biden as a president because they believed his promise to govern as a moderate who would chart a middle road course for the nation. Had they wanted a socialist Vermont Bernie Sanders, they could have had him. Okay, so I will push back on the idea that people believed the only reason people voted for Biden was because he was some type of moderate, middle of the road kind of guy. I don't believe that's really the reason why they voted for him, but okay. We'll also see the primary the DNC primary. You have your answer there. They got Sanders' agenda anyways, and they aren't likely to be happy with the consequences. Wait, what do you mean? What? This was Biden's agenda. Biden is the one who built the Build Back Better idea. I thought that was his whole thing. I thought that was the whole thing. That was his idea. So frustrating. Took advice from the same insurance companies that have a tight control on the system already. No wonder it was awful. True. Democrats are bound to pay a price for their overreach in 2020. Overreach in the 2022 midterm elections, but by then the damage will be done and will be irreparable. Oh god. Oh, the horror. Oh, the horror of the possibility, the horror of the potential of the plebs getting education, maternity leave. The horror of the idea of attempting to propel our energy systems into the future by revamping our infrastructure and revamping our energy grid. The horror of the idea of expanding broadband access to people. What irreparable damage that will cause. Can you imagine? What's next? They'll want like healthcare? Jeez, and after that they'll want like a living wage? What? Next thing you know, they want like guaranteed paid time off. And if you keep giving them that, maybe they'll even ask for better working conditions. Nah, this can't be. Everyone with healthcare and a living wage, I must face these consequences. True. Hey Dustin, how's it going? The Facebook whistleblower is testifying in Congress on C-SPAN. Okay, we might hop in that in a second. Nice meme. Nice meme. Come on, Jack. I may say the thing, but I don't care about the thing. You know the thing. Texas Supreme Court refuses to resume a Planned Parenthood lawsuit challenging the new state abortion law. Hey, remember how like it was incredibly important to pay attention to what happens when it comes to like elections and who gets to appoint a fourth of the judiciary, a fourth of the federal judiciary. Remember how it's important who gets to also point out the state Supreme Courts and the federal Supreme Courts? Remember how these things have consequences? The Texas Supreme Court denied a request on Monday from Planned Parenthood to resume its lawsuit filed in the state district court that challenges the state's near-total abortion ban. Planned Parenthood asked the all-Republican court last week to overturn the Texas multi-district litigation panel's decision to indefinitely pause its suit alongside 13 other lawsuits filed in Travis County District Court. The panel of 5 judges stopped the case from continuing at the request of Texas Right to Life. For those of you that don't know who this is, I highly recommend you look this up. Yeah. A prominent anti-abortion organization that helped draft Texas abortion restrictions. Cool. Hey, it's all coming together, right? It's all coming together. Abortion is healthcare, true. CEOs will make millions of dollars, working people have a good living wage, maybe. Yeah, hey, maybe the next thing that the poors will ask for is like, I don't know, like a house. Or like a way of being able to live in one, with one job 40 hours a week. So was that easy to ban abortion this whole time? No. They just figured out the secret sauce. They figured out the secret sauce. The secret sauce is to make sure that it isn't the government that is denying your ability to have abortions. Basically, it deputizes citizens to start levying civil lawsuits against those who aid and abet abortions to the tune of $10,000. So yeah, that's the secret sauce. And of course, if this continues and it's successful, it will be the roadmap to other states. The suit filed by Planned Parenthood asked the court to declare the abortion law, which bans the procedure as early as 6 weeks into a pregnancy, unconstitutional, which I believe to be so. A hearing was scheduled for this month. The organization said before the panel of judges paused their proceedings. In that case, the court temporarily blocked Texas Right to Life from being able to sue Planned Parenthood for potential violations of the abortion law. Yeah, they're already trying to collect on this law. Because, I mean, hey, 10,000 bucks. Sounds good. Yeah, but the government can't enforce the fee either, but credit scores aren't government, so the debt will basically enforce itself. Yeah, so exactly, Pat Rat. I don't know if that's like a one-to-one analogy, but like the idea and the concept is basically that, where it's, well, we're not banning abortions. We're not banning abortions. We're just going to make it so that civil cases can be brought against anyone who aids and abet them to the tune of $10,000. And funny enough, the same organization that is partially responsible for writing the legislation is also trying to collect on said legislation. Huh. Weird. Anybody else get those grifty vibes? 10K per lawsuit? Always remember, folks, it's never about the right to life. It's never about the pro-life stance. It's a misnomer. Next thing will be their Minecraft on a gender reveal plate. Right-wing boomers have such little empathy that they want no one to have anything they believe they earned, which is supplied by the government and fair housing market. Yeah. Well, back in my day, I didn't have anything. Like this. Imagine if we had this line of thinking. Back in my day, I didn't have Social Security, so no one should. Back in my day, I had to suffer X, Y, and Z, so that means everybody else should. And going forward, that's so weird and so just bizarre way of thinking. So toxic. Yeah, back in my day, we didn't have light bulbs, so how dare you? You can get paid for helping to criminalize a woman in one of the most stressful times of their lives. True! It is a childish argument, I agree. The Texas Supreme Court decision to allow the state to remain effective is extremely disappointing and will likely deprive Planned Parenthood of its stay in court once again. Yeah. We'll present our arguments, and the defendants will ultimately have to attempt to defend SB 8 on the merits. That is something the defendants are obviously scared and unwilling to do. So it's not surprising that they continue to try to delay it. At some point, their delay tactics will no longer work, and our clients will look forward to that day. It is also to be noted that these lawsuits are not the only legal challenges to the state's abortion law, commonly known as SB 8. So there is that. So we'll see how this progresses, and I hope that this gets challenged and struck down, because it cannot allow to proceed. I believe it to be unconstitutional. I believe it to be a undue burden on a woman's right, per the Roe versus Wade at Planned Parenthood versus Casey. It is an undue burden for a woman to be able to get their abortion. Period. It is absolutely an undue burden. Right, it is a childish argument. If I can't have it, then you can't. Wah. True. Anyways, folks, excellent advertising. Thank you, Yahoo News. I appreciate that. So folks, that's why it's so important to pay attention. Be your own caffeine. True. Oops. Anti-vax protesters knocked over a mobile COVID testing site in Manhattan during a protest against the NYC vaccine requirements. Anti-vax protesters in Manhattan tore down a mobile COVID testing site tent during a Monday demonstration against a vaccine mandate in New York City. Protesters marched through the city to demonstrate against a citywide mandate requiring all city workers, including teachers and staff and school staff, to be vaccinated against COVID or be tested weekly. Also, you don't have to get the vaccine. Gotcha. The march eventually gathered outside the Department of Education in Brooklyn. During the demonstration, some protesters knocked over a tent, flipped a table and chairs at mobile testing center. Cringe. Oh my god. Whoa. Oh. Yeesh. Very cool. Very normal. Very normal. Very normal. Ah, it's only a minute and 40. They hit a child with that tent while they were throwing a tantrum? Wow. That's true, Kyle. I did see that. This is the first time I've seen a cop wearing a mask. Well, I've seen them wear masks. But then again, that's here. I don't like public health. Let me destroy it. Yeah. Very normal stuff. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Ooh. Whoa. No, I don't. Stop it. Stop it. Jesus. Yeah, I know. I know. I haven't seen them on the subway. I love the framing of this article. Pelosi handed major defeat by rising progressive Democratic stars as Biden agenda put on ice. In rare instance in which House Speaker Nancy Pelosi was unable to do what she needed to do to win a vote, progressive House Democrats secured a major win last week by blocking the passage of a bipartisan infrastructure bill the Speaker promised it would make it through the chamber by Thursday. It was a stunning failure for the Speaker, who's been known for years for her iron grip on her caucus and ability to win major votes by the slimmest of margins. It caused President Biden's two biggest agenda items to come to a screeching halt in Congress, and it represented a breakthrough win for the Progressive Caucus Chairman, Representative Pramila Jayapal, who held her members together against the bipartisan infrastructure bill while Pelosi and Democratic leaders were whipping for it. Okay, so, just to be clear again, the deal was both of these were supposed to pass in tandem. Okay? This wasn't the progressives' idea. This was Biden's agenda. Okay? This was Biden's agenda. So don't. This is all Biden's agenda. And I know what's gonna happen. I know it's okay. So if they would have just if they would have allowed the bipartisan infrastructure bill to pass, okay, cool. I mean, it is important that we get some of these water lines, water pipes redone, since there are in this country still in 2021. We still have lead pipes. Okay, fine. But the problem is, that's where it will end. We will get a marginal, somewhat, somewhat of an infrastructure bill. It'll repair some things here and there. It will replace the water pipelines, which is important. But that's about it. That's about it. And the problem is, the Build Back Better plan has incredibly important legislation to put points on the board, especially when it comes to climate change. That's the problem. Because here's what they want. The Democratic Party would ideally like for the bipartisan bill to pass, and then say we can't do the budget reconciliation bill. It's too big. We can't do it. And then that's all. And then they'll try to say, well, we did this one. We'll tout this one as a W. We don't need to do more. And there it is. I want to know what's really inside Nellie's abandoned something. What? Biden is Carter and the Republicans and MAGA set the narrative? Yeah, well, no. Oh, you mean the ad on the right-hand side. Look inside Nellie's abandoned, crumbling mansion. What? All of the ads on the sides of the articles. Yeah, this is the Power for the Course. Nelly bought a haunted house. I don't know. It seems it was just it just stated that it was a crumbling mansion. Don't know if he even lives in it or not. Anyways, DLDR is I love how they continuously try to blame, or they will try to blame the Progressive Caucus, when in reality, they don't really, they weren't the ones who made this. Okay, this was that was the deal originally set by Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, and the Biden administration had the deal of we go forward with two of them at the same time, so that we can get this passed. That was the plan. And now they want to act like progressives came up with that one. Amazon worker ad. Yeah, I know. Cringe. It's Biden and Pelosi's and Kamala's fault. Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure. Well, to be fair, they will try to blame this on the progressives. These are just horrifying images from Oman. In case anybody still has this weird notion that maybe climate change is too expensive to deal with, for anybody who is of the mindset that maybe climate change it's just too expensive to deal with. Hold on. Hey, come back. How do I go back? I don't want. Maybe I should just refresh the page. Any video? Hey, Larry, vaccinated. Oman is seriously the most beautiful country I've ever seen. Land, sea, and cyber. 1 if by land, 2 if by sea, 3 if by cyber. Yeah, here it is, folks. Any video from the UAE? I don't know if it did it affect the UAE. I read Oman and Iran. A local clinic got flooded. It reminds me. Ooh, I sent you a good article. Okay, let me check that out. Howdy, howdy. Cool. Thank you. So again, just to get an idea, get a picture. Get a picture of what climate change looks like, and then come back to me and tell me the necessary actions are too expensive. Make sure these images are very well ingrained in your heads, and then tell me that this is just too expensive to deal with. At least 13 deaths have been attributed to tropical cyclone Shaheen, which had made landfall late Sunday night, October 3rd, at Al Suwaik, about 75 miles west-northwest of Omani capital city of Muscat. Shaheen was the first cyclone on record to enter the Gulf of Oman from the east and strike the north coast of Oman. Shaheen had weakened from minimal Category 1 strength just before landfall, arriving with top sustained winds of 55 knots or 63 miles an hour, according to the Joint Typhoon Warning Center. Al Sawaik recorded sustained winds of 52 miles an hour at 12:08 Eastern, Sunday, October 3rd. Omani authorities reported 11 deaths in Oman, BBC reported, and 2 fishermen were found dead in Iran. 2 of the Omani deaths were in a house destroyed by a mudslide. Videos on social media showed multiple motorists caught in high water. The dramatic video below from Oman's National Committee for Emergency Management shows a rescue in a wadi, a normally dry river channel just inland from the coastal community of Al Sawaik, near where Shaheen made landfall. Yikes. Yeah, okay, so to be clear, what they're doing is a top bottom, that's a roof, okay? That is a roof. Completely covered in water. Yeah, from down the helicopter, yep. Shaheen's winds and at landfall were weaker than predicted as it leftward turn brought Shaheen onshore sooner than expected, giving it less time to intensify. The turn spared the major shipping port of Sohar, where normal operations had resumed by Monday, according to the Muscat Daily. Shaheen brought torrential rains and flash flooding to a desert climate, in some cases dumping a year's worth of rain or more in a single day. Al-Sawai picked up an astounding 294.2 millimeters or 11.58 inches in the 48 hours starting at 8 a.m. Eastern Saturday, with 11 inches in the 24 hours starting at 8 a.m. Sunday. Other impressive two-day storm totals through 8 a.m. Monday were the 146 millimeter or 5.78 inches at Al Amarat in just south of Muscat, and 94.6 millimeters or 3.72 inches at Muscat International Airport in Sebe. For perspective, the average October rainfall for Muscat is 0.8 millimeters or 0.03 inches, and the average yearly rainfall is 89.7 millimeters or 3.59 inches. Yikes. The Joint Typhoon Warning Center used the name Cyclone Shaheen Kulab for this storm, alluding to its origins in the Bay of Bengal. At least 20 deaths in India were blamed on Kulab, which regrouped in the Arabian Sea on September 30th and was renamed Cyclone Shaheen by the India Meteorological Department. Only a handful of tropical cyclones have been recorded in the Gulf of Oman, and none made it so far west as Shaheen did. The strongest cyclone Ganu rampaged across the western Arabian Sea in June of 2007 as a Category 5 equivalent. That sea's strongest cyclone ever recorded. Ganu brushed the eastern tip of Oman before making landfall as a tropical depression in southern Iran, becoming the nation's only tropical cyclone on record. In 2010, Cyclone Fet followed a roughly similar track towards the eastern tip of Oman before angling further east. Even in this rarefied group, Shaheen was unique, crossing the Gulf of Oman from northeast to southwest. All other cyclones affecting the northern coast of Oman appeared from the south rather than from the Gulf itself. Shaheen fed off warm surface waters of 29 to 30 degrees Celsius, 84 to 86 for Fahrenheit, as well as unusually low wind shear, which typically quashes tropical cyclones in the Gulf by driving parched desert air into their circulations. Wow. I feel like the Omani Royal Police did better rescues than what we do after hurricanes. I don't know how their response systems could go. A dry riverbed is an insanely interesting verbiage. True. The cyclone sounds way cooler than hurricanes. Yeah, it is a hurricane yeah. The Sultanate has the petrodollars to do better. Oh yeah, true. True. Alright folks, give me 1 second. I believe the kitty cat wants to come in and say hello. Benjamin Dixon rating with a party of 25. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Welcome everybody. Somali and the Kind Dragon, howdy howdy. How is everybody? You guys came in at a perfect time. Hold on folks. For all of you folks that are coming in, you guys get a special treat. Hey, Siscat, how's it going? You guys get a special treat. Give me 1 second, folks. Folks, for those of you that don't know who we are A Difficult Truth. We do news and politics Monday through Thursday, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time, generally speaking. And Saturdays for Saturday Catterdays. We do chill headlines. We hang out here. Jam Tomb, how's it going? Let me make sure I do this here. So make sure you hit the follow. Make sure you do the social medias. I appreciate that. Alright, folks, give me 1 second. For those of you that are coming in through the raid, you guys are in for a treat. Give me 1 second, folks. Hang tight. Ooh. She got me good right at the end. We don't bail on raids, so I'm going to be lurking while I'm at work. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. I'm friends with Muhammad Al-Armi, who went to college by my town. He's cool as fuck. Uh-oh. Hey, Skidadeer. My suspension got lifted this morning. I got in trouble over my emotes. Oh no. Did you do too much spicy emotes? Is that what happened? They didn't like the red star on my salute hat? No way. Wait, that was it? Oh, okay. Okay, I see. And a squid smoking a cigarette is also drug paraphernalia? What? Come on. True. The community came to the conclusion that I'm being reported, which is what it is. Wow. Are we going to beep the Facebook whistleblower testimony? Oh, yeah, good point. Good point. Is it, you said C-SPAN, right? Hey, Samuel, the kind dragon. By the way, I'm not sure if I said thank you, but I do appreciate the subscription. And Sir Yogi, if you're still here, thank you so much for that gifted sub. But they will never suspend the right-leaning streamer for their shit. Yeah, well, terms of service are arbitrary, unfortunately. Sometimes they will, sometimes they won't. Sometimes they'll ban people that don't deserve to be banned. C-SPAN, thank you. Alright. Let me get some of that,
This is...
Whoa. Jeez.
Buck stops with him.
And speaking of...
Buck stops with Mark. There is no one currently holding Mark accountable but himself.
And Mark Zuckerberg, in effect, is the algorithm designer-in-chief, correct?
I received an MBA from Harvard, and they emphasized to us that we are responsible for the organizations that we build. Mark has built an organization that is very metrics-driven, it is intended to be flat. There is no unilateral responsibility. The metrics make the decision. Unfortunately, that itself is a decision.
Mark
And in the end,
Zuckerberg
if he is the CEO
is
and
very,
the chairman of Facebook, he is responsible for those decisions.
The buck stops with him.
The Mark Zuckerberg is highly involved in everything that Facebook does. I believe. This is not just like, never mind her testimony, but like this has been reported time and time again that he's extremely involved when it comes to like decisions and stuff like that. The Switch use an algorithm to ban, a human to review. Good question. I don't know, Larry Vaccinated. I think that they do when you get banned, and you appeal the ban. It does get manually reviewed. I don't believe Twitch is going from account to account and removing previously approved emotes. Right, because you can report emotes. So therefore, it is possible that all that, like you said, Skated Ear, it's possible that the only thing that's happening is that they're reporting it continuously. Because you can report emotes. My friend dated him at summer camp. She never talks about it. It's disgrace. I'm dating. It's like, ooh. It's like dating the R. Kelly of corporations. Wow. Yikes.
Profited off spreading disinformation and misinformation and sowing hate. Facebook's answers to Facebook's destructive impact always seems to be more Facebook. We need more Facebook, which means more pain and more money for Facebook. Would you agree?
I don't think at any point Facebook set out to make a destructive platform. I think it is a challenge of that Facebook has set up an organization where the parts of the organization responsible for growing and expanding the organization are separate and not regularly cross-pollinated with the parts of the company that focus on the harms that the company is causing. And as a result, regularly, integrity actions, projects that were hard fought by the teams trying to keep us safe, are undone by new growth projects that counteract those same remedies. So I do think it's a thing of there are organizational problems that need oversight, and Facebook needs help in order to move forward to a more healthy place.
And whether it's teens bullied into suicidal thoughts or the genocide of ethnic minorities in Myanmar, or fanning the flames of division within our own country or in Europe, they are ultimately responsible for the immorality of the pain that's caused.
Facebook needs to take responsibility for the consequences of its choices. It needs to be willing to accept small trade-offs on profit. And I think just that act of being able to admit that it's a mixed bag is important. And I think that what we saw from Antigone last week is an example of the kind of behavior we need to support Facebook in growing out of, which is instead of just focusing on all the good they do, admit they have responsibilities to also remedy the harm.
But Mark Zuckerberg's new policy is no apologies, no admissions, no acknowledgement,
True.
nothing to see here. We're going to deflect it and go sailing. I turn to the ranking
Something like that. Now,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for your testimony.
just to be clear, there's no reason why Facebook should be allowed to operate under these incredibly overt, anti-competitive, monopolistic behaviors. They shouldn't be allowed to operate under these things. They shouldn't allowed to have been under dubious circumstances by Instagram and any company that posed a threat to it. So yeah, this is just on its surface, and we knew about this even beforehand. Like what this whistleblower has to say isn't necessarily news. However, it is nice to have that kind of on the record that this company is behaving in this manner. This company has chosen to be very dubious with people's private information. They haven't been, previously haven't been very quite forthcoming with what they do with people's data, among other things. They should not be allowed to own they shouldn't be allowed to own Instagram. They shouldn't be allowed to own like WhatsApp and all the other apps that they have been allowed to acquire. Hey, Darknet. She confirmed what we knew. Yeah, that's a good way. That's a better way of putting it. That's a good way of putting it.
That was 8. He said he didn't want to know that.
Yeah.
So it would be for this reason, correct?
A pattern of behavior that I saw at Facebook was that often problems were so understaffed that there was kind of an implicit discouragement from having better detection systems. So for
Okay.
example, I worked, my last team at Facebook was on the counter-espionage team within the threat intelligence org. And at any given time, our team could only handle a third of the cases that we knew about. We
Okay.
knew that if we built even a basic detector, we would
I
likely have
downloaded all my
many more
Facebook data last
cases.
month, and in
Okay,
2005
then
I was an
let me
edgelord and a
ask you-
huge flip.
Now, let me ask you this. So you look at the way that they have the data, but they're choosing to keep that data and advertise from it,
Republican from
right?
Tennessee.
You sell it to third parties. So what does Facebook do? You've got these 600,000 accounts that ought not to be on there.
Probably
And-
more.
And, right. But then you delete those accounts. But what happens to that data? Does Facebook keep that data? Do they keep it until those children go to age 13? Since, as you're saying, they can work backward and figure out the true age of a user. So what do they do with it? Do they delete it? Do they store it? Do they keep it? How do they process that?
My understanding of Facebook's data retention policies, and I want to be really clear, I didn't work directly on that, is that when they delete an account, they delete all the data within, I believe, 90
Okay.
days in compliance with GDPR. With regard to children underage on the platform, Facebook could do substantially more to detect more of those children, and they should have to publish for Congress those processes because there are lots of subtleties in those things, and they could be much more effective than probably what they're doing today.
Got it. Now, staying with this underage children, since this hearing is all about kids and about online privacy, I want you to tell me how Facebook is able to do market research on these children that are under age 13, because Mrs. Davis was really, she didn't deny this last week. So how are they doing this? Do they bring kids into focus groups with their parents? How do they get that permission? She said they got permission from parents. Is there a permission slip or a
A
form
permission slip?
that gets signed? And then how do they know which kids to target?
There's a bunch to unpack there. We'll start with maybe how did they recruit children for focus groups? Or recruit teenagers. Most tech companies
Is there a
have
large
systems
story
where
missing here?
they can,
Probably like
analyze the
nothing that
data
we
is
didn't
on
really
their
know.
servers. So
Why does she sound like Elizabeth Warren?
Most of the focus
I don't know.
groups I read, or that I saw analysis of, were around Messenger Kids, which has children on it. And those focus groups appear to be children interacting in person. Often, large tech companies use either sourcing agencies that will go and identify people who meet certain demographic criteria, or they will reach out directly based on data on the platform. So for example, on the case of Messenger Kids, maybe you would want to study a child that was an active user and one that was a less active user. You might reach out to some that came from each population.
And so these are children that are under age 13,
Yeah.
and they know it.
For some of these studies. And I assume they get permission, but I don't work on that.
Okay. Well, we're still waiting to get a copy of
Yeah.
that parental consent form, and that would involve children. My time has expired, Mr. Chairman. I'll save my other questions for our second round if we're able to get those. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Senator Blackburn. Senator Klobuchar.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you so much, Ms. Haugen, for shedding a light on how Facebook time and time again has put profit over people. When their own research found that more than 13% of teen girls say that Instagram made their thoughts of suicide worse, what did they do? They proposed Instagram for Kids, which has now been put on pause because of public pressure. When they found out that their algorithms are fostering polarization, misinformation, and hate, that they allowed 99% of their violent content to remain unchecked on their platform, including lead up to the January 6th insurrection. What did they do? They now, as we know, Mark Zuckerberg's going sailing and saying no apologies. I think the time has come for action, and I think you are the catalyst for that action. You have said privacy legislation is not enough. I completely agree with you, but I think you know we have not done anything to update our privacy laws in this country, our federal privacy laws. Nothing, zilch, in any major way. Why? Because there are lobbyists around every single corner of this building that have been hired by the tech industry. We have done nothing when it comes to making the algorithms more transparent, allowing for the university research that you referred to. Why? Because Facebook and the other tech companies are throwing a bunch of money around this town and people are listening to them. We have done nothing significantly past, although we are on a bipartisan basis working in the antitrust subcommittee to get something done on consolidation, which you understand allows the dominant platforms to control all this, like the bullies in the neighborhood, buy out the companies that maybe could have competed with them and added the bells and whistles. So the time for action is now. So I'll start with something that I asked Facebook's head of safety when she testified.
Thank you for the follow,
before us
Yaron
last
Kate.
week. I asked her how they estimate the lifetime value of a user for kids who start using their products before they turn 13. She evaded the question and said, that's not the way we think about it. Is that right, or is it your experience that Facebook estimates and puts a value on how much money they get from users in general? I'll get to kids in a second. Is that a motivating force for them?
Based on what I saw in terms of allocation of integrity spending, so one of the things disclosed in the Wall Street Journal was that I believe it's like 87% of all the misinformation spending is spent on English, but only about like 9% of the users are English speakers. It seems that Facebook invests more in users who make them more money, even though the danger may not be evenly distributed based on profitability.
Does it make sense that having a younger person get hooked on social media at a young age makes them more profitable over the long term as they have a life ahead of them?
Facebook's internal documents talk about the importance of getting younger users, for example, tweens, onto Instagram, like Instagram Kids, because they need to have, they know that children bring their parents online. and things like that. And so they understand the value of younger users for the long-term success of Facebook.
Facebook reported advertising revenue to be $51.58 per user last quarter in the US and Canada. When I asked Ms. Davis how much of that came from Instagram users under 18, she wouldn't say. Do you think that teens are profitable for their company?
I would assume so.
Yeah, that's why they did it. Wait, that's why they do it.
You get much substantially higher advertising rates for customers who don't yet have preferences or habits. And so I'm sure they are some of the more profitable users on Facebook, but I do not work directly on that.
Another major issue that's come out of this, eating disorders. Studies have found that eating disorders actually have the highest mortality rate of any mental illness for women. And I led a bill on this with Senators Capito and Baldwin that we passed into law. And I'm concerned that this algorithms that they have pushes outrageous content.
True.
Promoting anorexia and the like. I know it's personal to you. Do you think that their algorithms push some of this content to young girls?
Facebook knows that the engagement-based ranking, the way that they pick the content in Instagram for young users, for all users, amplifies preferences. And they have done something called a proactive incident response, where they take things that they've heard, for example, like, can you be led by the algorithms to anorexia content?
Probably.
And they have literally recreated that experiment themselves and confirmed, yes, this happens to people.
Yeah, I mean, like, this isn't, and just to be clear, this isn't unique to Facebook, right? The way the pipelines are built through social media isn't unique to Facebook. However, it is, or it feels like more overt and more predatory, because Facebook has access to so much of your data, and it gathers every iota of behavioral patterns and all this other stuff that they gather from your profile.
Kind of content in the political world. You brought up other countries and what's been happening there. On 60 Minutes, you said that Facebook implemented safeguards to reduce misinformation ahead of the 2020 election, but turned off those safeguards right after the election. And you know that the insurrection
That's
occurred
right.
January 6th. Do you think that Facebook turned off the safeguards because they were costing the company money, because it was reducing profits?
Facebook has been emphasizing a false choice. They've said the safeguards that were in place before the election implicated free speech. The choices that were happening on the platform were really about how reactive and twitchy was the platform, right? Like how viral was the platform. And Facebook changed those safety defaults in the run-up to the election because they knew they were dangerous. And because they wanted that growth back, they wanted the acceleration of the platform back after the election, they returned to their original defaults. And the fact that they had to break the glass on January 6th and turn them back on, I think that's deeply problematic.
Agree. Thank you very much for your bravery in coming forward.
Now, I think, in my opinion, I think that should we have used the already built antitrust legislation or already built systems in place that are designed to not make companies act in monopolistic behaviors, or at least they don't allow for that in theory because of the way the rules are written. I don't know if Facebook would have been able to be this big, and I don't know if we would have had the same ramifications as we are watching here, the same ripple effects, because Facebook and you know, these social media companies like YouTube and all this has been allowed to get so big and so intertwined because they never ever, when the time came for it back a few years ago, when the time came for some type of antitrust legislation, was never done. Yes, that's right, Tandera. On. After.
Which, in addition to stripping Section 230 protections for content that a court determines to be illegal, the PACT Act would also increase transparency and due process for users around the content moderation process. And importantly, in the context we're talking about today with this hearing, with a major big tech whistleblower, the PACT Act would explore the viability of a federal program for big tech employees to blow the whistle on wrongdoing inside the companies where they work. In my view, we should encourage employees in the tech sector like you to speak up about questionable practices of big tech companies, so we can, among other things, ensure that Americans are fully aware of how social media platforms are using artificial intelligence and opaque algorithms to keep them hooked on the platform. So let me, Ms. Haugen, just ask you, we've
Why
learned from
isn't,
the information
and
that
wait,
you
isn't this guy the
provided
minority whip,
that
not the
Facebook
majority, since
conducts
he's a
what's called
Republican? Oh, maybe you're
engagement-based
right.
ranking, which you've described as very dangerous. Could you talk more about why engagement-based ranking is dangerous, and do you think Congress should seek to pass legislation like the Filter Bubble Transparency Act that would give users the ability to avoid engagement-based ranking altogether?
Facebook is going to say, you don't want to give up engagement-based ranking. You're not going to like Facebook as much if we're not picking out the content for you. That's just not true. There are a lot of, Facebook likes to present things as false choices, like you have to choose between having lots of spam. Like let's say, imagine we ordered our feeds by time, like on iMessage or on, there are other forms of social media that are chronologically based. They're gonna say, you're gonna get spammed, like you're not gonna enjoy your feed. The reality is that those experiences have a lot of permutations. There are ways that we can make those experiences where computers don't regulate what we see. We together socially regulate what we see. But they don't want us to have that conversation because Facebook knows that when they pick out the content that we focus on using computers, we spend more time on their platform, they make more money.
True.
The dangers of engagement-based ranking are that Facebook knows that content that elicits an extreme reaction from you is more likely to get a click, a comment, or reshare. And
Yeah,
it's
which is,
interesting because those clicks and comments and reshares aren't even necessarily for your benefit. It's because they know that other people will produce more content if they get the likes and comments and reshares.
right, it incentivizes toxic behavior because that's what gets the engagement. It's and I see that, and I think that is pretty much a given, right? I mean, you see these social media platforms. That's just how they act. It is almost par for the course, right? In order for you to get engagement, you have to be outrageous or eye-catching, right? And that often comes with doing or being extreme or being outrageous or whatever it is that gets eyes or engagement.
Have the option to use Facebook and Instagram without being manipulated by algorithms designed to keep them engaged on that platform.
I strongly believe, like I've spent most of my career working on systems like engagement-based ranking. Like when I come to you and say these things, I'm basically damning 10 years of my own work, right? Engagement-based ranking, Facebook says we can do it safely because we have AI. You know, the artificial intelligence will find the bad content that we know our engagement-based ranking is promoting. They've written blog posts on how they know engagement-based ranking is dangerous, but the AI will save us. Facebook's own research says they cannot adequately identify dangerous content, and as a result, those dangerous algorithms that they admit are picking up the extreme sentiments, the division. They can't protect us from the harms that they know exist in their own system. And so I don't think it's just a question of saying, should people have the option of choosing to not be manipulated by their algorithms? I think if we had appropriate oversight, or if we reformed 230 to make Facebook responsible for the consequences of their intentional ranking decisions, I think they would get rid of engagement-based ranking.
So what is the
Because it
Republican
causing,
stance on this? I'm
teenagers
confused.
to be exposed to more anorexia content.
Are they
It is
against
pulling families
big tech,
apart.
or
And in
is the
places like
misinformation
Ethiopia, it's
regulation
literally
censorship?
fanning
I think that they're
violence.
kind of
I encourage reform of these platforms.
I think that what their angle is mostly they don't like the idea that big tech is so big. I don't know if that plays into the censorship angle, but it seems like they're on board with at least entertaining the idea of taking action against these large companies.
Forward, was there a particular moment when you came to the conclusion that reform from the inside was impossible and that you decided to be a whistleblower?
There was a long series of moments where I became aware that Facebook, when faced with conflicts of interest between its own profits and the common good, public safety, that Facebook consistently chose to prioritize its profits. I think the moment at which I realized we needed to get help from the outside, that the only way these problems would be solved is by solving them together, not solving them alone, was when civic integrity was dissolved following the 2020 election. It really felt like a betrayal of the promises that Facebook had made to people who had sacrificed a great deal to keep the election safe by basically dissolving our community and integrating it in just other parts of the company.
And when I know their response is that they've sort of distributed the duties.
Yeah.
That's an excuse, right?
I cannot see into the hearts of other men, and I don't know what their
Well, let me say it
motivations
this
were.
way. It won't work, right?
And I can tell you that when I left the company, so the people who I worked with were disproportionately, maybe 75% of my pod of 7 people. Those are product managers, program managers. Most of them had come from civic integrity. All of us left the inauthentic behavior pod, either for other parts of the company or the company entirely over the same 6-week period of time. So 6 months after the reorganization, we had clearly lost faith that those changes were coming.
You said in your opening statement that they know how to make Facebook and Instagram safer. So, thought experiment. You are now the chief executive officer and chairman of the company. What changes would you immediately institute?
I would immediately establish a policy of how to share information and research from inside the company with appropriate oversight bodies like Congress. I would give proposed legislation to Congress saying, here's what an effective oversight agency would look like. I would actively engage with academics to make sure that people who are confirming are Facebook's marketing message is true have the information they need to confirm these things. And I would immediately implement the, quote, soft interventions that were identified to protect the 2020 election. So that's things like requiring someone to click on a link before resharing it, because other companies like Twitter have found that significantly reduces misinformation. No one is censored by being forced to click on a link before resharing it.
Thank you. I want to pivot back to Instagram's targeting of kids. We all know that they announced a pause, but that reminds me of what they announced when they were going to issue a digital currency. And they got beat up by the U.S. Senate Banking Committee, and they said, never mind. And now they're coming back around, hoping that nobody notices that they are going to try to issue a currency. Now, let's set aside for the moment.
It's more about children getting used, but also wanting the whole process out of their systems. Yeah, something like that.
To be gobble up everything, do everything. That's the growth strategy. Do you believe that they're actually going to discontinue Instagram Kids, or are they just waiting for the dust to settle?
I would be sincerely surprised if they do not continue working on Instagram Kids, and I would be amazed if a year from now we don't have this conversation again.
Why?
Facebook understands that if they want to continue to grow, they have to find new users. They have to make sure that the next generation is just as engaged with Instagram as the current one. And the way they'll do that is by making sure that children establish habits before they have good self-regulation.
I don't know if that's exactly how they think Fifth Dimension.
I would like to emphasize one of the documents that we sent in on problematic use examined the rates of problematic use by age, and that peaked with 14-year-olds. It's just like cigarettes. Teenagers don't have good self-regulation. They say explicitly.
Wow, this just in, teenagers don't have good self-regulation. Wow. Breaking news, folks. And the fact that like a lot of these social media companies kind of take advantage of that is really weird. Also, I mean, like the reality is that the TLDR of this is if it makes the money, that's what they'll do. That's basically it. I mean, this isn't like that. This isn't any more complicated than that. If it makes the money, that's what they will do. However, that being said, I think that I think that it's time that some type of regulation comes down. I think that we need to be serious, and if you, especially about the effects of social media on kids and stuff like that, and on society. There's a very good documentary on Netflix called The Social Dilemma, which outlines the very things that she's saying, how like teenagers are the most affected group, which is true. I mean, I'm a 48-year-old and I don't even have good self-regulation. Yeah, look at loot boxes. The loot boxes and all that. It's pretty disgusting. I know that's true. I couldn't self-regulate my 4 local habits as a teen. Yeah, like the idea that you know, teenagers would have some type of like self-regulation is a meme, and the idea that Facebook is just doing this because it makes them profitable is deeply worrying. I mean, my whole point was check out The Social Dilemma. It basically highlights these concepts that she's talking about, and I think it is about time that we as a society to kind of reel that back in a little bit, you know? I'm a libertarian now.
Hours. Kids who are bullied on Instagram, the bullying follows them home. It follows them into their bedrooms. The last thing they see before they go to bed at night is someone being cruel to them, or the first thing they see in the morning is someone being cruel to them. Kids are learning that their own friends, like people who they care about them, are cruel to them. Like, think about how that's going to impact their domestic relationships when they become 20-somethings or 30-somethings, to believe that people who care about you are mean to you. Facebook knows that parents today, because they didn't experience these things, they never experienced this addictive experience with a piece of technology, they give their children bad advice. They say things like, why don't you just stop using it? And so that Facebook's own research is aware that children express feelings of loneliness and struggling with these things because they can't even get support from their own parents. I don't understand how Facebook can know all these things and not escalate it to someone like Congress for help and support in navigating these problems.
Let me ask the question in a broader way.
I can't understand why the tobacco industry wouldn't bring up the studies that they knew about how tobacco causes cancer and it's highly addictive. I just can't understand why they wouldn't bring that up to a body such as Congress. I don't understand why the fossil fuel industry would, despite knowing for decades what their products are causing on the planet, I just can't put my finger on what the reason would be. Why Congress, why these companies wouldn't bring this up despite knowing for decades. I just can't put my finger on it.
Their own constituents don't like or approve of because those are the ones that get distributed on Facebook. That's a huge, huge negative impact. Facebook also knows that they have admitted in public that engagement-based ranking is dangerous without integrity and security systems, but then not rolled out those integrity and security systems to most of the languages in the world. And that's what's causing things like ethnic violence in Ethiopia.
Thank you for your answer. What is the magnitude of Facebook's revenues or profits that come from the sale of user data?
Oh, I'm sorry. I've never worked on that. I'm not aware.
Thank you.
Don't worry. The answer to that is very simple. A lot. a lot. Hello, Prophet, my old friend. True. Man, this is so gross. And we knew about it, especially from the situation in Myanmar, that they had like one or two, what was the team that they had? what was the team that they had? It was like a 3-person team for Myanmar, right? They knew it was happening.
Over public safety, they shouldn't get a free pass on that because they're paying for their profits right now with our safety. So I strongly encourage reform of 230 in that way. I also believe there needs to be a dedicated oversight body because right now the only
Being
people
ironic
in the
about
world
what?
who are trained to analyze these experiments, to understand what's happening inside of Facebook, are people who grew up inside of Facebook or Pinterest or another social media company. And there needs to be a regulatory home where someone like me could do a tour of duty after working at a place like this and have a place to work on things like regulation, to bring that information out to the oversight boards that have the right to do oversight.
A regulatory agency within the federal government.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Chairman.
Senator Cantwell.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you,
Chairman.
Senator Moran.
Thank you for holding this hearing, and I think my colleagues have brought up a lot of important issues, and so I think I just want to continue on that vein. First of all, the Privacy Act that I introduced along with several of my colleagues actually does have FTC oversight of algorithm transparency. In some instances,
They didn't do anything about it despite their platform being used to perpetuate this fifth dimension. They didn't do anything about it despite knowing that their platform is being used to perpetuate this, and furthermore, they didn't even dedicate the resources to it. They had like literally, if I remember reading that story correctly, they had like 3 people dedicated to sifting through posts in Myanmar. Yeah, that's a good point, Dr. Dragon Rider. That's I would agree with that. That would be a fantastic way of kind of making things more transparent.
with information about this terminology, downstream MSI, meaningful social information, knowing that it was this choice. You could continue this wrong-headed information, hate information about the Rohingya, or you could continue to get higher click-through rates. And I know you said you don't know about profits, but I'm pretty sure you know that on a page. Yeah. If you click through that next page, I'm pretty sure there's a lot more ad revenue than if you didn't click through.
Well, yeah, that's how advertising
so you're
works.
saying that documents exist, that at the highest level at Facebook, you had information discussing these 2 choices, and that people chose, even though they knew that it was misinformation and hurtful and maybe even causing people lives, they continued to choose profit.
We have submitted documents to Congress outlining Mark Zuckerberg was directly presented with a list of, quote, soft interventions. So a hard intervention is like taking a piece of content off Facebook, taking a user off Facebook. Soft interventions are about making slightly different choices to make the platform less viral, less twitchy. Mark was presented with these options and chose to not remove downstream MSI in April of 2020, even though even just isolated in at-risk countries, that's countries at risk of violence, if it had any impact on the overall MSI metric. So he chose—
Which in translation means less money.
Yeah, he said—
Right? Was there another reason given why they would do it other than they thought it would really affect their numbers?
I mean,
I don't know for certain. Like Jeff Horowitz, the reporter for the Wall Street Journal, and I struggled with this because we sat there and read these minutes and we were like, how is this possible? Like, we've just read 100 pages on how downstream MSI expands hate speech, misinformation, violence inciting content, graphic violent content. Why wouldn't you get rid of this? And the best theory that we've come up with, and I want to emphasize this is just our interpretation on it, is people's bonuses are tied to MSI. Right? Like people stay or leave the company based on what they get paid. And like, if you hurt MSI, a bunch of people weren't gonna get their bonuses.
So you're saying that this practice even still continues today? Like, we're still in this environment? I'm personally very frustrated by this because we presented information to Facebook from one of my own constituents in 2018 talking about this issue with the Rohingya.
yeah, with the we knew about this. I remember. I remember covering this story about the Myanmar, the genocide that was happening in Myanmar, and how Facebook, not only did they know about it, but they didn't really dedicate any resources to attempt to kind of like do anything about it. The platform was being used very openly, outwardly to do this.
Are bad at finding this content. It's still in the raw form for 80, 90% of even that sensitive content. In countries where they don't have integrity systems in the local language, and in the case of Ethiopia, there are 100 million people in Ethiopia and 6 languages. Facebook only supports 2 of those languages for integrity systems. This strategy of focusing on language-specific, content-specific systems, AI to save us, is doomed to fail.
I need to get to one of them. First of all, I'm sending a letter to Facebook today. They better not delete any information as it relates to the Rohingya or investigations about how they proceeded on this, particularly in light of your information or the documents. But aren't we also now talking about advertising fraud? Aren't you selling something to advertisers that's not really what they're getting? We know about this because of the newspaper issues. We're trying to say that journalism that basically has to meet a different standard, a public interest standard that basically is out there basically proving every day, or they can be sued.
Wait, what strange contradiction? Is that Trump lost? Where was Facebook? What are you talking about?
We see it. We see it. People are coming back to the local journalism because they're like, we want to be with the trusted brand. We don't want to be in, your website. So I think your finding for the SEC is an interesting one, but I think that we also have to look at what are the other issues here. And one of them is, did they defraud advertisers in telling them this was the advertising content that you were going to be advertising in, when in reality it was something different. It was based on a different model.
We have multiple examples of question and answers for the advertising staff, the sales staff, where advertisers say after the riots last summer,
I love when
we're asked,
C-SPAN
should
gets
we come
spicy,
back to
true.
Facebook, or after the insurrection, like, should we come back to Facebook? And Facebook.
Do you think that Facebook has potentially defrauded advertisers? Because they're not really being the product being offered is not the product that's actually existing. Methinks this is across the board different social media platforms that do engage in advertising, and just saying this is probably true for all of them, that they do have dubious practices when it comes to advertising.
Available.
Just saying.
Last week we had another witness from Facebook, Ms. Davis. She came and she testified before this committee.
It's
and she focused
Cornell
on,
University. Got you.
among other things, the
Gotcha,
extent
gotcha,
to which
gotcha.
Facebook targets ads to children, including ads that are either sexually suggestive or geared toward adult-themed
Did Facebook help or
products
destroy Trump's
themes in general.
re-election?
Now, I didn't.
Unclear.
While I appreciated her willingness to be here, I didn't get the clearest answers in response to some of those questions. And so I'm hoping that you can help shed some light on some of those issues related to Facebook's advertising processes here today. As we get into this, I want to first read you a quote that I got from Ms. Davis last week. Here's what she said during her questioning. Quote, "When we do ads to young people, there are only 3 things that an advertiser can target around: age, gender, location. We also prohibit certain ads to young people, including weight loss ads. We don't allow tobacco ads at all, meaning to young people. We don't allow them to children. We don't allow them to minors," close quote. Now,
Except,
since that exchange happened last week, there are a number of individuals and groups, including a group called the Technology Transparency Project, or TTP, that have indicated that that part of her testimony was inaccurate, that it was false. TTP noted that TTP
called it.
had conducted an experiment just last month, and their goal was to run a series of ads that would be targeted to children ages 13 to 17 to users in the United States. Now, I want to emphasize that TTP didn't end up running these ads. They stopped them from being distributed to users. But Facebook did, in fact, approve them. And as I understand it, Facebook approved them for an audience of up to 9.1 million users, all of whom were teens.
And just to be clear, all of these like advertising things that they say, oh, we are not targeting whatever. Yeah, okay. First of all, press X to doubt, and second of all, the advertisers who are paying for these ads are literally throwing their money away because their ads are being shown to kids who I don't think that's legal from what I understand. B, those aren't consumers that are able to even legally consume. So and I'm speaking just from the legal perspective, they are literally defrauding, is my point. Never mind the ethical stuff and moral disgustingness that's going on here. But the advertisers are literally being defrauded.
Now, the third one
Yikes.
invites children to find their partner
Yikes.
online and to make a love connection.
Yikes.
You look lonely. Find your partner now to make a love connection.
Okay,
It'd be an entirely different kettle of fish if this were
I don't know if that's TOS, so I'm just gonna stop that there for a second. Holy yikes, Batman. I like to have him focus on censorship of conservatives. The Republicans and Democrats seem to be largely concerned with the effects of social media on children rather than the effects of everyone. I'm trying to understand what the rhetoric and why it's being so subjective. I don't know. It's pretty clear what they're talking about. Big dangly things. They're concerned about Facebook's practices. They're concerned about the monopolistic behavior. They're concerned about the effects on society. They just happen to zero in on that, but I believe they mentioned in several instances that it's not just kids. However, these are the biggest demographics that are being affected, so that's why they're focusing on it. There's weight loss ads being shown to teens. Yeah, I would imagine so. There's like a lot of, again, dubious practices that are happening here that are on top of all the reprehensible stuff that's happening. On top of that, they are literally defrauding advertisers. And we're watching this live in 4K, folks.
About your testimony is Facebook has a deep focus on scale. So scale is, can we do things very cheaply for a huge number of people, which is part of why they rely on AI so much. It is very possible that none of those ads were seen by a human. And the reality is that we've seen from repeated documents within my disclosures is that Facebook's AI systems only catch a very tiny minority of offending content. And best case scenario in the case of something like hate speech, at most.
All right. So unfortunately, it is 11:28, so I do have to get going to work. I do appreciate all of you guys hanging out. Thank you, Darknet. Thank you, Spread It Forward. Thank you for all the new follows. Thank you for the subscription, Sir Yogi Wan. Thank you, Somalian, the Kind Dragon, for the tier 1 sub. Thank you for the massive raid, Benjamin Dixon. I appreciate that. We are heading out, and we'll be back tomorrow, Monday through Thursday, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time, doing the news and politics, and catch us on Saturdays about noon Eastern Time for Saturday Catterday. Facebook is just a CIA and UN propaganda tool. No, not really. Social media is easier to deal with social services that benefits the constituents and the Build Back Better plan. I think it's mostly a distraction. Maybe. Maybe. Oh, well, yeah, I mean, like, just enforce regulation, enforce the antitrust stuff. Yeah. Have a good one. You have a good one. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate you guys hanging out here. As always, please stay safe. Please take care of each other. As always, I'll be all, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. See ya! Except hang tight, folks. We're raiding. Dan Simpson. Let's head on to Dan Simpson's show. Cheers. Hang tight, folks. We're heading out to Dan Simpson's. They're phenomenal. Please go show support. Peace. Please go show support. We're heading out in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Here we go.